but this is going to be IAmOK versus Tim. Now, IAmOK is a former, well, not former, like a Chinese 2K player from a while back who hasn't been that active as far as I know, but has made something of a comeback lately. They actually both have the same clan tag of CR at this point, so him and Tim being in the same clan at this point, a Chinese player's clan, and he's playing under the name of CR Ready in the blue up towards the top left of the map, and pretty close to him, just to the bottom right, is Tim in the red. Both players playing as the Franks, so probably team random here. And the map, I remember why I downloaded this now, it's because it's something different. It's SY Cross. I wonder if they went oh, everything's in Chinese, so I can't tell. But I wonder if they went for SY map pack or whether this was a picked map by them. But this is SY Cross, and I know there are various different versions of this map where the fish are either absolutely amazing or average or kind of poor, and these look pretty spread out, so maybe it's the poorer version. But even so, a dock on any of these big lakes in the corners is absolutely essential, because even though it's not crazy fishing, it's still fantastic, and plenty of fish to last you towards the mid game. I always like this kind of cross map and crisscross map to see if players spread out and dock multiple lakes and really try and abuse it and take control of all the water. It'll be interesting to see. Both players can kind of somewhat safely take the two lakes at either side of them, although one of them is a bit further away. But they will have to look at the fact that they are really close together on the map. There's only this distance between the two of them. Obviously, with all the water on the map with SY Cross, even though it's kind of Arabia-like, it does force the players to be quite close together. Normally they're in this sort of like central circle area, so not towards the kind of arms of the cross, if you like. And that can make for some really aggressive games, because not only are the players close together and able to go aggressive, their economies are also supercharged by the fact that they have all that great fish to take advantage of, which enables them to go really aggressive if they want to. Although sometimes you look across and that can actually be, it can be quite wallable as well, so it just does depend really on how the players choose to play it. What I'd like to see, what I think would be really fun here, is just like a full-on Knights game. Tim is obviously really well known for just playing with lots of Knights, going really aggressive like that, even in Hun Wars, just as eschewing the kind of cavalry archer metagame and just be like a raiding with Knights. We've got Franks this time, so that's obviously quite a logical play with them having fantastic Knights, with the hit point bonus functioning as free bloodlines effectively in the Castle Age. Sometimes you then see the other player trying to defend with Knights and Pikemen, and perhaps even taking a slightly more boom-oriented approach. But what I'd love to see is one or both players going really aggressive with tons of Knights, and which they'll be able to do because it will be backed up by a fishing economy, assuming they don't actually lose all their fishing ships to a sneaky fire ship, a sneaky dock and a sneaky fire ship by the enemy sending a villager across the map. But let's have a look at the two maps that the players have at this point. We see for Tim it's really, really nice. Two big gold piles in the back, including his main gold. The secondary gold on this map actually has one extra tile to normal, which is quite interesting to note. Third gold is pretty nasty out towards the front, but it's not terribly far away. Both of his stones forward, which could cause a problem if Ready, or IAmOK even, decides to come forward, because it'll be, you know, if towers come up in this area, it might be quite hard for Tim to counter tower. So that's a potential vulnerability in his map, along with this big hill, which, you know, could be taken advantage of. For IAmOK though, looking pretty decent as well. This main gold is somewhat forward into the side at the bottom of the hill as well, but oh, we see a really good little bit of boar villager laming here, and that villager is not going to make it into the TC, so great play by Tim, just perhaps being a little bit fortuitous to find that villager as it took the boar towards the TC, but quickly acting to get a couple of hits in and a bit of blocking and make sure that villager went down. But Tim, even as he does that, getting a little bit housed, was just returning to IAmOK's map. Like, this gold is not in a terrible position despite the hill, and it being somewhat forward simply because it's quite close to the TC, and IAmOK may even be able to just wall across here to keep that safe. You can already see him trying to do some walling across the front as well with houses. I always like to see that when players are using houses to build up their base from the first moments and not just putting them randomly and then walling with palisades later on. Both players committing to a scout fight here, which I think I'm shocked at that. Actually, I thought IAmOK was going to get the better of that, but Tim keeps his scout alive as well, which is going to be really useful for him to continue gathering that scouting information when IAmOK won't have that luxury. Rest of IAmOK's map looks pretty decent though as well. Back gold, back stone, and another gold, although it's kind of a little bit far away, it is back as well. And if he did walls, even walls all the way across the front here, which would be very feasible, he could have all of his golds contained within his walls. No surprise to see him doing these walls either, actually. I said that, you know, if he'd left this part either walled here or left it open, then the hill could be a bit of an issue on his gold, but just a wall in front takes care of that issue, at least until Tim makes a concerted effort to actually try and break through. Looking at the fishing ships amount for both players, Tim on the 4th, IAmOK a little bit behind on 3, but a 4th popping out for him. Be interesting to see how many more they choose to add to these lakes, or whether they choose to try and find a different lake to build a second dock in. Want to look at what Tim is actually doing now, because we see that having clicked up to the feudal age, he's transitioned most of the villagers towards the straggler tree, and I assume he'll retask some of them to a second lumber camp. Some of them may even be going to stone. Yeah, we see a mining camp popping up at this point, and his other villagers are going to continue out across the map. So looks like a 5 villager forward, not backed up by a drush of any kind. Neither player with a barracks at this point. IAmOK is going for the full frontal wall off all the way across the map, but that is far from completing that at this point, and Tim will just probably head towards the north. Find a way in, but taking a look at his scouting, hasn't gone to the north to see if all of this is closed off yet, and his villagers are actually turning towards the south, which could have been a mistake because he might have wasted time trying to bash through this wall, but now he's gonna turn back towards the north and see what's going on up here, see if it's fully closed or not. He may even have clicked inside the walls of IAmOK to see where that took the villagers to know where it was open. Hitting the feudal age first when IAmOK hasn't even clicked up, so I think IAmOK was going for more of a kind of wall fast castle approach, maybe wall fast castle knights, but Tim's having none of that. He's just going to go aggressive straight away, dropping a first tower on this house line. It will enable him to break through this area potentially later on, but still with the fact that he has a scout alive still somewhere, or should do. Where is it? Did he lose it? I think he lost his scout. Yeah, he doesn't seem to have a scout alive at this point. So I was thinking, oh, he had his scout alive. He should be patrolling up here. Well, not patrolling in terms of, you know, the command patrol, but just scouting out this area to see if there was a better place to be dropping his towers and to trying to force an entrance. But he's doing it blind with just villagers. So far, like, I feel like he could, if he'd explored up here to see that Reddy was like gathering wood from here, and to see that it wasn't closed off from here, that he could have dropped towers in better locations, but it at least establishes a platform for him to continue his forward, and does take some map control as well, and allows him to kind of continue the tower creep, just continue moving around. Remember that he did drop a mining camp on the stone and actually sent a total of 5 villagers there, so he'll be able to drop tower after tower after tower. This is funny, actually putting another one here right in the wall of IAmOK. Obviously he can kind of either choose to bash it down or re-wall behind it, but funny nonetheless to see that wall segment getting denied by a tower being placed over the top of it. But I think Tim overextended there. He kind of went too far to the north with that tower. It's not in the overlapping field of fire from this one, and he doesn't have anything to back up the villagers. So Red IAmOK will be able to counter tower at this point. He's got loads more villagers in the area, and he can prevent that tower from ever being built, and also kind of halt Tim's advance. Interestingly, Tim will have a villager kind of run straight past the TC of IAmOK, but he doesn't have any villagers in the area to jump into the TC and shoot that villager as it goes past. And even a sneaky little a female assassin villager here, running underneath the tower fire of Tim, and sticking the final sword in the back of Tim's villager. That was, I don't really know what that villager was doing. It was almost like he forgot about it. So Tim's aggression notwithstanding and the need to react to that, IAmOK will be able to probably execute an okay fast castle off the back of this, actually, with less food in the bank than I would have expected. I'm hoping that my overlay, if it's still working, but at the moment I would have thought he'd probably have more food in the bank and be closer to clicking up at this point. He's dropping a one stable blacksmith, which certainly looks like the FC type build, but I think he's kind of messed it up a little bit in terms of being able to execute that fast castle time with not too much of a delay after Tim made that early aggression against him. We can see all 4 docks on the map, all 4 lakes on the map now have docks on them, which is pretty interesting. Tim went to the north up here and built a dock here once his villagers were kind of forced away from the forward, and he was just looking for something useful to do with them. But IAmOK was already here with his own dock and actually 4 fishing ships, and now IAmOK is trying to dock the second lake of Tim as well, so this is going to be pretty interesting. I guess that could be a reason why IAmOK was a little bit later to stockpile the food to click up. He probably had a lot more villagers on wood to try and get these docks and fishing ships out in multiple lakes, and we also have to look at the fact that he did throw up a lot of walling, as well as having a lot of villagers idle trying to respond to all this nonsense going on just outside where he was trying to wall off as well. He's going to completely stonewall in his area of the map now and have all of his golds crucially within those walls, but he's going to see that Tim cheekily actually has a mining camp, and he'll eventually see that there are a bunch of villagers out there stealing his main gold. At this point you have to think that those villagers will all be dead at the moment when IAmOK gets the castle age, because one knight probably come out of the stables and clear all that up. In fact, IAmOK even adding a scout to try and maybe to help clean some of this up, but also to figure out what's going on, because having lost his scout so early when he chose to commit to that fight, he doesn't have any information about what Tim's doing. Meanwhile, just out of line of sight of IAmOK, there is a sneak stable from Tim. IAmOK obviously knows that Tim is here, but not really. Okay, he sees the stable now. That's pretty crucial. Good job for him that villager probably strayed a tile closer to the stable and uncovered it, because it would be a real kind of failing by him if he allowed that sneak stable to remain unnoticed, having seen the mining camp and being aware that villagers were behind his lines. Tim gonna lose 1 villager at least to these scouts, but a nice little quick wall from him will ensure that the rest of the villagers survive and continue to be able to build stuff and cause havoc behind IAmOK's walls, as well as steal some of his gold. And with the barracks importantly being there as well, it means that Tim can't kind of rush that area so easily IAmOK can't rush that area so easily if Tim produces a few spears in there, whilst he's a little bit more delayed in getting to the castle age. And Tim actually dropping a second sneak stable, although obviously at this point it's a sneak in inverted commas, since IAmOK is fully aware of it. Tim doing more or less the same thing as IAmOK did as well, just stonewalling off the whole map, but he's going to go aggressive from behind by having all of his military buildings inside the base of IAmOK. IAmOK will reply with a monastery to counter Tim's 2 stables, and Tim will also add a tower here which will force IAmOK away from the main stone. Tim will know that IAmOK's second stone is outside his wall, so that's pretty important. And also helps solidify his hold over this main gold area and just his kind of forward slash sneak in general. For now, IAmOK will take control of at least 3 lakes on the map at this point, because he's got a fire ship destroying Tim's fishing ships in the northern one. Might add in 1 or 2 more ships just to take down his dock at some point, because a single fire means Tim could easily reply to that. but he's also taking control over here. He's got some galleys idle in the corner. I'd like to see them over here attacking that dock just to work away at destroying it, but just a small detail. No, it's not on Voodoo China, Smarty. It's just a recorded game. It was probably played on Voodoo China, but it's just something I downloaded from season. So Tim with the 2 stable knights, continuing production from both. Also managed to drop a castle right on the wood line of IAmOK, and this is really fun to see it working out like this. Lots of like difference in strategy and aggressiveness. Despite both players being stone-walled, we're not seeing a passive boom game at all here. IAmOK will pop 2 monks out of that monastery, but not really getting too much value out of them. And Tim with more knights for now, and will get the stable up on the wood line and main stone of IAmOK as well, and really force a retreat from that area. And with the amount of knights that Tim has in here, with +1 armor done, he'll be able to do lots of damage at this point. IAmOK does have more upgrades on his knights, does have forging, but it doesn't make a dramatic difference. For now, the numbers are the important thing, and Tim has plenty of numbers behind the lines of IAmOK, raiding very effectively in all locations. The wood line on the left, gold mine in the south, and even under the main TC. Tim needs to do, make sure he does good damage there though, and idles plenty of economy, kills some villagers, because obviously IAmOK right now is benefiting from having fishing ships on a lot more lakes than Tim, and shortly Tim will have no fishing to take at all, considering this is his last fish in this lake, one single storefish. But just looking at the amount of skeletons, dead villager skeletons, that has been a really effective raid for Tim. 10 villager difference established between the 2 players at this point. And with 2 stables, a castle, barracks, and soon to be a monastery, Tim has just such a solid foothold behind the walls of IAmOK, which have amounted to nothing really. I feel like the mistake for IAmOK was that, having put up all these stone walls and having seen that there were structures coming up from Tim here, he didn't really do enough to react to it. Like, he saw the mining camp, and he had a stable at that point, but it took him forever to build a couple of scouts to go and deal with it. I mean, if you're aware that the enemy has a sneak, you really need to go and deal with it. Letting it live and allowing the villagers to throw up 2 stables and a barracks behind your lines is really not a mistake you can afford to make, and it's really has hurt IAmOK now. It looks like he'll be able to defend now because he has a good number of knights, getting onto 2 TCs and with another monastery down here to help defend. But to what extent has the damage already been done? That's the question. Tim even starting to clean up all of his fishing economy as well. I said that, just 1 fire ship from IAmOK to take down this dock wasn't enough. Tim could easily reply to that, and he has done that. 2 fire ships from him have cleaned up everything that IAmOK had on that lake, and now it suddenly becomes Tim's lake to fish in. Both players massing knights and monks for an engagement which is soon to come. Tim will want to probably add some siege before he really tries to push in. As far as the eastern lake, IAmOK still controls it, but doesn't have any fishing ships here. So right now there's almost no difference in fishing economy between the players, and IAmOK's efforts to take control of all of the lakes earlier on no longer paying off for him, and not really compensating for the 7 villager difference between the 2 players. Tim actually has more fishing ships at this point. Actually, there was one more fishing ship, one more shore fish spot that he could take advantage of, although a number of those fishing ships are idle. At home, Tim's sitting on 1, 2, soon to be a 3rd town centre, only just dropping that 3rd one, but 2 TCs plus fishing ships and 2 lakes, pretty good economic basis still to mount a push like this. For now, just continuing to mass knights, so not really saving for Imperial Age, but not really ready to push. I do think he needs to add siege, as I was saying, before he tries to make that push. It looks like IAmOK though feeling kind of comfortable that Tim hasn't threatened him for a while, is now going to push out across the map. See all these knights pushing out to the walls of Tim, and a forward siege workshop over here, from which one battering ram has been produced and now tries to break down the walls of Tim. Tim will try to re-wall that with villages, but mangonels, or a mangonel, is out for IAmOK. Going to take down Tim's 3 villages, and IAmOK should have an easy time pushing through the walls there. It's going to be harder for Tim to re-wall behind it, just because this is such a wide area to wall off behind the walls and out of range of the mangonel. So, but the thing is, Tim can bring all of the knights that he has over here to try and deal with this. At the moment, he's sitting on, well, the military numbers between the two players are about similar, but his knight army just looks ever so slightly bigger. And if he brings that home, he'll probably be able to deal with this quite effectively. But for now, whilst those knights charge across the map, trying to make it home and trying to save the lowly peasants being butchered by IAmOK's knights, IAmOK will be able to do some significant damage. Picking up a number of villager kills, idling some economy, but now Tim is back with all the knights. The siege, obviously easy prey to all of those, and now I fear for IAmOK's army, because it's going to get trapped in here by a larger number of Tim's knights, and also come under fire from all the TCs, if the TC is actually garrison, which it is now. And this, depending on the losses that IAmOK takes at this point, it feels like this is a kind of pivotal moment of the game, but this is really clever from Tim. He's walling in those knights. He knows he's got the military advantage, and that if he takes this fight, he will be far ahead in game terms, because he'll be able to wipe out all of those knights without sustaining many, if any, losses of his own. And IAmOK's military numbers will be very much depleted at that point, so this feels like a really decisive moment, and a very clever wall off by Tim at this point to stop those knights from escaping. I think Tim has lost about 5 villages in return for just killing almost all the knights from IAmOK without taking very many losses at all of his own. You see that IAmOK did remass some more at home, but Tim massively in the lead in terms of knight numbers at this point. Nothing much happening on the lakes and the corners now, most of the fish being claimed apart from IAmOK using a couple of fishing ships in the east to take control of most of the remaining fish on the map. IAmOK will take down his tower just to relieve a little bit of pressure and regain a little bit of map control on the front. Might even try and push out towards his second stone, but really he's got to be careful not to overextend too much into this area whilst Tim has the military advantage, as Tim could easily come in and clean up stuff that starts to be built up there, and say if he went out and tried to drop a couple of buildings, Tim could easily run in and deal with that. So I think IAmOK is really struggling in the map control sense at this point. Like, his resources in the north have been taken away from him. This wood line's been taken away by the castle. He doesn't have the military presence on the map to try and push out into other areas, and his best hope is probably sneaking out to the south, which is actually where he is. I was looking at this gate in the wall, and he's actually sent a few villagers through that gate trying to build a TC in the south. I think that's a great idea and probably perfectly fine to do, but the issue is if Tim finds it, he'll be kind of in trouble, because Tim is in a better position to take a fight and go over there and push it if he so chooses. It's not really a defensible TC for IAmOK, it's just one that he's trying to hide and just hope Tim doesn't find. So let's have a look at player resources. IAmOK sitting on almost all of the resources that he'll need to go to the Imperial Age. He does actually have a market as well, so he could even sell a little bit of wood and go up if he wanted to. Whereas Tim is on almost 2,000 gold, but somewhat less food and wood. So like, he could buy his well up to the Imperial Age again, but he's kind of floating tons of stuff. See big engagement coming in here now. Tim chose this moment to make his move just as IAmOK left his base, but the monks, importantly, are close enough to home that IAmOK can pick up a nice number of conversions there and force him to go back. Also, whilst all that was going on, IAmOK dropped a house in this gap to try and stop Tim from finding the gap and moving in and decimating all of his economy. So monks proving really important in IAmOK's defense there. Probably saved his bacon since he vacated his bases, basically all the knights that he had at that point. But Tim is going to be first in the Imperial Age. I don't know if he sold anything at the market to get buy his way up. Neither player has actually done too much market manipulation in this game. I was too focused on the fight to see if he simply just accumulated the food he needed, since he was on about 400 before that engagement kicked off. But he's going to be first. IAmOK could have been up also some time ago if he just used the market, but not doing that manipulation that he needs to go up at this point. Really don't think that he needs to be sitting on all of that wood that he's currently stockpiling. Doing his damnedest to actually keep Tim out as well. Tim's just probing around at the moment, trying to find some weak points, see if he can force a way into IAmOK's base. But it's, you know, he's doing a good job of making sure there are no gaps, re-walling behind, and Tim's going to have to wait for an Imperial Age push, I think. But even so, IAmOK is not going to sit there and wait to die. He's going to go out across the map, and right now he's looking like to be on a good number of knights of his own. It looks like maybe that's 20 or so knights there, and adding in 2 mangonels to try and force his way through the wall. That would create an entrance pretty quickly for IAmOK, but Tim getting 1 mangonel for free there, as IAmOK wasn't focusing on defeating this push, and he may even pick up a second if that other one strays too close to the walls and remains in that inconvenient crater. Tim's mangonel still on the prowl, still wants to take it down, and looks like IAmOK may try and look for a different angle of attack. He's actually going to come out over here and try and TC Tim's third goal, which is pretty cheeky. But meanwhile, once again, Tim is bringing his massive knights across the map to try and deal with the counter push that IAmOK is doing. Thing is though, IAmOK does have a good amount of monks there, and obviously has his knights nearby as well, and it makes it difficult for Tim to take a straight up fight against the push of IAmOK, and it's going to be pretty interesting now. Tim in the Imperial Age getting Cavalier and Barding armor, so going to be able to mount a push, potentially also with trebuchets as well, which he's creating from both castles. But equally, IAmOK could even convert half of Tim's army here actually, and is on his way to the Imperial as well, 50% there, and may be able to mount a push of his own. So we could see one player choosing to return to their base to defend against the push of the other one, or we could see both players pushing simultaneously and then trying to hang on for dear life at home. So it's good. Tim will have the advantage in going a little bit faster with trebuchets and stuff like that. Don't think, IAmOK isn't on a castle at this point, so he won't have access to trebuchets. And that may force IAmOK to be the one who comes back and defends. But even so, IAmOK could still mount a push of his own. It's just I think he would lose his entire bases. And I think the sensible thing then to do probably is to come back and defend. But looking at Tim's composition, it's really tough, because he's due to the fact that IAmOK's base is really compact and Tim has castles close by, he can more or less tread most of IAmOK's base from the safety of sitting underneath the castles. And then if IAmOK tried to push against all of it, Tim's got the monks there ready and waiting to convert, so it's really difficult for IAmOK to actually defend against that push. Tim even going for Paladin now, not something you often see in 1v1, but obviously it's such a powerful unit for the Franks, it's no surprise to see them going for it, especially in a match like this where both players are just massing up large numbers of knights and we don't see either player going for a lot of pikemen or halberdier. It feels like the difference in Imperial Age timing really proving decisive, because Tim's just able to really mount that really damaging push with trebuchets, and getting Cavalier and the extra armor, etc. obviously stops IAmOK from taking a straight up fight, really. If the Imperial Age timings had been similar, it would have been really interesting to see if both players had kind of pushed into each other's bases at the same time, but that hasn't happened. Tim was the one to seize the initiative, and now this is going to be an absolute slaughter as we see all of these villages having to migrate, give up all of this farmland, give up the gold mines and the wood lines, and retreat towards the south, where, to be fair to him, IAmOK has kind of built up a significant eco down here, but even so, they're losing God knows how many villages, 10, 15, 20, whilst they try and run away, will be setting IAmOK back by a huge amount. Actually a 30 villager difference established between the two players now, and if IAmOK manages to defend against this for much longer, it will seem miraculous. Tim up to Paladin with +4 attack and the last armor upgrade done, whilst we don't even see Cavalier kicking in for IAmOK at this point. And thinking about it, why is IAmOK still on Knights? The answer is he must have been doing Imp in this TC, so his Imp TC actually went down, and we see him doing Imperial Age again. He's on 80%, he was on 50% minutes ago. So that is another reason why Tim has kind of surged ahead in the push. He took out the Imp TC of IAmOK. I'm sad that I missed that to start off with, but at least I've picked up on it now, and that has meant that there was just no question of IAmOK ever taking this fight and trying to save his base. If he'd got Cavalier and then maybe even Paladin, as Tim did several minutes ago, due to only being behind by a couple of minutes on the Imperial Age, then maybe it would have been fine for him. But he's only now hitting the Imperial Age and getting Cavalier, and no blacksmith upgrades kicking in, where as Tim has the most powerful paladins in the game, and an absolute ton of them that are going to come over here and just wreck him basically once the Trebs arrive, to try and kind of create a gap. I feel like it was a bit of a tactical error by IAmOK to do the Imperial Age upgrade in that TC, because he had another one over here that would have, I think, that would have bought him a little more time, considering that this one was almost certainly going to be the one that was going to come under pressure from Tim's Trebs, and he knew that Tim was potentially going to be first in the Imperial Age. Maybe, like, he couldn't, I'm not bank on being first and do it close. Maybe even have done it out here, although that would have been a risk if Tim had brought the Knights and Knights around and maybe some siege. I feel like probably this TC would have been the way to go to do the safest Imp, but sometimes you just forget. Sometimes you think, I want to go to Imp, I'm going to hit my TC hotkey and I'm going to click, and that's, I think Tim was in a better position anyway. Certainly he would have pushed slightly faster with the couple of minutes, being a couple of minutes ahead to the Imperial Age, but the fact that IAmOK chose to do Imperial Age out of the most vulnerable of the town centres that he possessed really put the nail in his coffin there, and Tim just driving it home with Paladins, which are always nice to see in a 1v1. So, really entertaining game there. I was saying at the start of the game that with the fish boosts, and Franks, we could see really aggressive knight plays from two players. In the end, we saw a lot of walling and stone walling, but Tim made it really interesting with a sneak, which IAmOK didn't react to correctly, in my opinion. He saw the sneak, but didn't go over there and stamp it out straight away, and then by the time he decided to send a couple of scouts over there, almost half-heartedly, Tim had built a stable and was able to wall his vills in, and from there it really just ended up being the Achilles heel for IAmOK, having all this stuff springing up in the back of his base, denying him first of all space to build and space to boom, second resources, and third allowing Tim to push and produce from this area, as well as having the little bit of the hill as well. So really nice game from Tim, really nice strategies, but some mistakes by IAmOK there, I think it's fair to say. I think Tim got a little bit of head and villager high in the end. Ultimately, may have been down to the amount of casualties IAmOK sustained whilst having all of those villagers run away, but maybe that villager high was reached before then. Tim with a bit better economy, obviously just down to having a few more villagers for most of the game. and kills looking so much more in his favour because of the Imperial Age units versus Castle Age for some of the end game there. Right, I know that a few of you were asking for me to do AoE1, but it's kind of late here. It's almost midnight, and I don't really want to start that up, having also been streaming for um, I think close to a couple of hours now doing AOC casting. But I know I've let that slide over the past week. I said I was going to do one on Sunday, but with King of the Hippo going on so late and me watching quite a lot of that in the end, I wasn't feeling it on Sunday night, and then I've had a busy week, not really able to do that in the weeknights. So maybe I'll try and get some of that done this weekend. So just if you want to see that, make sure you're following the channel. But if I do some and you miss it, then it will appear on YouTube in due course. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to do any area one now. Just a bit too tired to be starting off a play session of that, especially as I've been casting for a while, as I said. But thank you very much for tuning in and watching the games, guys. Hope you enjoyed. I'll probably try and make casting some random recorded games, rated games, more of a thing as well, just to keep bringing more different types of games to the channel. So maybe I'll do some more over the weekend or next week as well. I'm also planning to get China versus Finland casted. I've kept saying that for so long, but it's just finding the time to do it, because I know that even though it was a best of 5, I think they played all 5 games anyway. So it's going to be a set of 5 team games, and I really need to be able to set aside a decent chunk of time at a weekend or something like that to be able to stream all of those. Maybe it's best to split them into chunks, but yeah, China v Finland to come as well, hopefully, unless somebody else may cast them as well. But I've definitely had that on my streaming to-do list for the channel for a while. Anyway, guys, good night. Thanks for tuning in, and see you soon.